person like that. And within the university system, no, I must place the unions in proper participation for people to understand.
Hello and welcome to the program. At long last, the Nigerian Senate on Thursday, October the 22nd, screened the former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amaechi, for the position of minister in President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet. Now, Amaechi's screening had been shifted several times over petitions filed against his nomination by some individuals believed to be acting for the Rivers State government. But the former Rivers State governor's screening was not without some drama, as PDP senators refused to ask him questions after Minority Leader Godswill Akpabio had announced that PDP senators would not join in questioning Amaechi until the report on the nominee by the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges had been debated. Majority Leader Alain Dume then suggested that being a one-time lawmaker, Amaechi should be allowed to take a bow and go, but that was overruled by Senate President Bukola Saraki, who asked the former Rivers State governor to answer a few questions. Now, only APC senators asked questions as their PDP counterparts maintained a studied silence. Amaechi spoke on issues ranging from corruption to the rate of unemployment and development of the agricultural sector. He also strongly argued that there was nowhere in the entire report of the Rivers State Commission of Inquiry where he was indicted. Let's take a listen to some of what he said.
With the issue of massive unemployment, you deal with the change in the economic mantra. The mono-economic situation where we have, monocropping economic situation that we have cannot survive. The Nigeria cannot continue to be what we are if we continue to just rely on oil. For me, I agree with the president that there is a need to invest in agriculture. When we went to Germany, there was no natural resources that we met. Now, if we invest in agriculture and invest in technology, you would hire as many workers as possible. In the course of campaign, I discovered that in Borno, we were seeing watermelon that were grown naturally. If you plant just 100,000 hectares of watermelon in Borno, if you encourage it by disbursing funds to responsible farmers, and you have 100,000 hectares of farmland planting watermelon alone in Borno, you can be sure to engage more than 30,000 workers. You can be sure to engage more than 30,000 workers. If you do a similar thing around Kano and other parts, look at the first, what crops can be suited in which area, and you encourage farmers with funding, because problem is the fund from the banks and the interest rate. So government must invest in that regard. If you do that, sir, you will get employment. Did we do that in Rivers State? The answer is yes. We established 2 farms. We established a farm for training. We established a banana farm. And we employed the time I feel happy is when I go on inspection and I see men, women queuing up to be hired on daily basis. And they are paid on daily basis. I think that we must diversify the economy. Mining is another area that God has blessed us, that we need to do that. And we also need to invest in education, because some of these people are unemployable. We need to invest hugely on education. Did you do that in Rivers State? Yes. For the 4, 5, 6 years, our budget was highest in education in Rivers State. So if this happens, sir, I think we employ quite a large number of workers. Secondly, you must improve on what are called the social rights of the people. If you improve on social rights of the people, there will be peace. If you have peace, there will be investors. You must have power, whether we like it or not. If you don't have power, there will be no industrialization. If you don't improve on power supply, and I don't see the rocket science in power supply, I think we should just look at what the problems are and remove corruption and invest in power. And then you will see as many people as possible that will have other forms of business. The reason why most people don't invest in Nigeria is that the cost of production in Nigeria by far outweighs the benefits you will make from your business. So Nigeria, I usually say that a Nigerian is a government on his own. He hires his own security, he has his own borehole, he has his own generator. So what is government providing? That's why government needs to do all this. And that is as it refers to you. Senator Gumel, that's a very difficult question to answer, my distinguished senator. Extremely difficult in the sense that I don't think that I'll be doing good to my colleagues and brothers. I was once in PDP. who are on this side, that we should be trying to explain to them how we managed to take PDP out of power. But key was that we sold to the public. We sold to the public the fact that there was massive corruption in the system, and there was a need to fight that corruption. And the only way to fight that corruption is to put a new government. And we had to get a signpost candidate. The signpost candidate is a man who the Nigerian public have seen as an incorruptible president. And that's why the party had to put President Buhari forward. And we thought there was a need to do things differently. I thought that as good as the former president may have been, I don't think he was suitable enough for the growth and development of Nigeria. So we needed to offer the opportunity to somebody we believe, and I believe that, is better than the former president. But I don't think we should go right on what happened. Let me thank you, Senator Ashafa. I repeated that I brought all the copies of the panel. I didn't bring the white paper. All the copies of the panel. I didn't bring the white paper. There is nowhere I was indicted. If the Senate President permits me, I'm ready to lay this on the table so that members can have opportunity of reading it. Nowhere that I was indicted. Now, you've asked me to define corruption. Corruption is very difficult to define. If you're a public officer and you don't take bribe, I have never taken bribe in my life. But if they send a girl to you and you sleep with the girl and do that favor, you are corrupt. But Nigerians don't know that. They think that corruption is only when you collect bribe. Corruption is a very wide concept. If people are competing for a position and you offer your son or your brother or sister an opportunity to hold that position, when the person is not qualified, you are corrupt. So it's difficult for me to define corruption, sir.
Now, this whole screening exercise has lasted for over 2 weeks now, and the Senate is not done yet, as some nominees are yet to be screened. Of course, the exercise will continue until next week, but all these delays, in addition to the fact that it took President Muhammadu Buhari about 4 months to prepare the ministerial list and send to the Senate, is certainly having an effect on the economy. The business community had expected that this whole episode would have been concluded long ago and the government up and running, but that has not been the case. Even the ministerial nominees that have been screened and cleared are yet to be sworn in and assigned portfolios. We don't even know when that would happen. Again, we have not seen any overwhelming positive response from the business world over the president's likely economic team. A lot of financial experts, I should say, had expected that the second ministerial list, which was released over a week ago, would contain some big and prominent names in the world of business, but that did not happen. Most of the names on the list from the business angle are not really well known, and it is too early for certain to tell what impact their appointments would have when we know exactly what economic-related portfolios they would be assigned. To discuss this further, I should say, I'm now being joined by finance and economic analyst Johnson Chukwu. Mr. Chukwu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me get your take on that second ministerial list. A lot of people had expected that that was the list that would determine probably the direction this government was going to go in terms of the economy. But then we didn't see some of the big names that were touted initially. What's your take on that list?
Well, from the first list to the second list, if you consider the pedigree of the background of the nominees, you find out that the expectations of Nigerians that you're going to have heavyweights from the financial industry or from the economic space dominate that list. It was not realized. But if you consider the second list in particular, there's a particular name that is there. That's Dr. K. Nelama. He's a medical doctor by training, but he has been in the finance industry for all his professional career. Dr. K. Nelama was in then at Anderson, now KPMG, and he's the founder of Capital Alliance. And he has been involved in investment, private equity investment for more than 2 decades. I think that's the only outstanding name in the second list. But if you go back to the first list, you still have people who have some relative knowledge of experience in finance. We have a former commissioner for finance in Ogun State, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, who is on that list. You have Senator Udo Udoma, who has been the chairman of SEC chairman of UAC, chairman of Union Bank, strong private sector experiences on that list. And I think those are the people you could actually say have had direct private sector economic-oriented experience on the list. But you also have those whose broad knowledge of social and economic affairs must also be recognized. You have people like former Governor Babatunde Fashola, the former Governor of Lagos State. If you look at his background and what he did in Lagos State, I think he has a relatively good knowledge of the economy or economic issues. You have former Governor Kayode Fayemi, and then you have Ms. Amina, I think Amina Mohammed. I think those ones are the people that ordinarily they should be part of the economic management team of the new government, and then I also believe that the economically relevant portfolios will be assigned to these names I just mentioned.
Let me ask you this. You know, in the past, usually when you have this kind of announcement made, you would see some kind of reaction, especially in the market. I mean, the last time we had something like this, there was a positive reaction in the market. We saw some kind of rebound, but it has not happened in this case.
Yes, well, that obviously shows you the kind of vote that the market has passed on the nominees. Like I did mention, we were expecting some very heavyweight, some people with strong economic background. We didn't see that. That does not mean we don't have people who have working knowledge of the economy. But probably Nigerians were expecting heavyweights, people with deep knowledge of the economy, that if you mentioned the name, would have said, okay, this person is going to this particular, maybe this person is going to head the Ministry of Finance. Like when Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was nominated by either president, during the first time of her first tour of duty under President Obasanjo and her second tour of duty under President Goodluck Jonathan. Immediately her name came up, people knew she was going to go to the Ministry of Finance. That's the kind of expectation Nigerians had. People, names were being thrown around. People like names like Dela Alake, names like Doyin Salami, names like Patotomi, names like Chukuma Soludo were being bandied around as names of those who will make the ministerial list. And people were expecting that had any of these names come up, then it would have been the natural fit for them to be assigned to the Ministry of Finance. But be that as it may, I heard some people make comments that you go to war with the army that you have, not the army you want to have. So if you look at the current composition of the ministerial nominees, I think about 5 people are the people who are most likely going to be assigned to economically relevant units, either the Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Trade and Investment. And those are Dr. Kene Lama, Senator Udo Udoma, Mrs. Kemi Adosun, then you have former Governor Kayode Fayemi, and then former Governor Babatunde Fashola. Those are people you could actually see on that list that have relatively good economic knowledge.
Now, I mean, you've just mentioned some names, and no doubt, I mean, these people have, you know, they have a track record. But let me ask you, if you were asked as an analyst, a finance expert now, to hazard a guess who the likely finance ministerial, you know, who is likely going to take the Ministry of Finance, who is likely going to be the next Minister of Finance, who would you guess that would be?
Well, my take is that the lot will fall between 2 persons. And one of them is Mrs. Kemi Adosun, who has been the Commissioner for Finance in Ogun State, and then Dr. Okene Lama, who was until this appointment the Managing Director of Capital Alliance.
Okay, let's look at the economy now. Things are not too good for this country. Things are still very bad. And then we continue to have this delay. Tell us, the longer this takes, surely the economy will suffer. By now, we expect that the ministers would have been appointed. They would have come into office and actually hit the ground running. But, you know, 2 weeks or so after their names were submitted, we still do not have the ministers in place.
Well, I was actually thinking that those who have been cleared would have been sworn in the last Wednesday. I mean, that the president would have inaugurated the Federal Executive Council last Wednesday. But that did not happen. Maybe by next week we should have that inaugurated and then portfolios assigned to them. So far, I think about 24 of them have been cleared or have been screened by the National Assembly. 18 so far cleared. I think this current week, about 6 we are screened. But give and take, I want to believe that the president will have no choice than to inaugurate the Federal Executive Council either the next week or the following week, because by then we should have substantially the nominees cleared. There's no doubt that the absence of an economic management team and executive council in place is negatively affecting the economy. I mean, recently the U.S. government, through the ambassador, said that they are waiting for the economic policy direction of the government. They are waiting for the cabinet to come into place before they will now take further measures on how to engage the government. So clearly, a lot of things may not be held in abeyance until the economic management team is in place and the economic direction is defined, and then you have individuals manning the requisite ministries of the federal government.
Can you paint a clear picture, I mean, some kind of picture for us of the enormity of the economic challenge facing this government, you know, especially when that economic team comes and takes shape? What is, just paint a picture of the economic challenge that they would have to confront.
Well, I think one of the critical economic challenges they are going to face is the issue of reflating economy. We saw a GDP growth rate of 2.35% in the second quarter of this year, the lowest in 10 years' time. And the CBN governor only recently said at the Monetary Policy Committee announcement that the economy is at risk of going into a recession next year. So the critical economic challenge that the Monetary Policy Committee, the economic management team, and the Minister of Finance will have to face is to have to reflate the economy, how to restart growth. And they have to contend with it at a time where you have low foreign exchange earnings, where you have increasing level of unemployment, and where you have unstable exchange rates, and worsened by increasing inflation rate. So I think those are the issues that you have to face.
Let's talk about the currency now, the Naira. I mean, the federal government has consistently maintained that it is not going to devalue, even though there have been calls from some certain quarters now for it to devalue. Now the IMF has actually stepped in, asking the Nigerian government to think and do something, devalue the Naira, so to speak. What's your take on that?
Well, the way it's looking, it looks like it may be difficult for government to sustain the current exchange rate. We've seen oil prices have refused to go above $50 per barrel. We've also seen that production has stagnated crude production in Nigeria has stagnated around 1.86 million barrels per day. So if you consider those factors, which means our foreign exchange earnings will continue to suffer or will remain weak in the immediate future, and that you cannot continue to compel to restrict importation, because basically there's a level of consumption that has to take place in a country of this size, and you're not going to just overnight stop that. In as much as you are trying to moderate or take out the item that qualify for access to official foreign exchange, but you just can't eliminate certain level of consumption in a country with a 180 million population. So if that's the case, then certainly the government something has to be given. Either you have to find another creative allocation system or system of allocating foreign exchange, which in every allocation system is embedded in it corruption, and you also have inefficiency in any allocation system. Or you have to allow the market forces to some extent determine the exchange rate. And I think the second option may be the option that the government cannot avoid in the long run. Clearly, as the demand is building up, as unmet FX demand is continue to grow, the government may have no choice than to adjust the exchange rate.
Do you think the government might be forced to do that now that the IMF has said, look, it should do it?
Well, I think it's beyond the issue of the IMF. The economic realities are such that our supply of FX cannot meet the demand for FX. And once you have a demand that's higher than supply, you have to either adjust by price, or like I said, you have to come up with a creative allocation method. Are you going to go back to the era of import licensing? That is not feasible in today's world. So if that is not feasible, you just have to find a way of rationing. And if rationing is not a viable option, then you have to adjust the price so that there's a new equilibrium is arrived at.
Just before I let you go, let me quickly ask you, looking at the ministerial list we have seen so far, of course, we don't expect any more list. Would you say the list inspires confidence?
Well, what I would say is this. If you use the market as a barometer to measure confidence inspired, or whether the list inspires confidence, I would say the market reaction has been lukewarm. We've not seen any reaction, any response by the equity market. So, but give and take, there are Nigerians, like I said, you go to the war with the army you have, not the army you desire to have. So we have to work with the people you have selected. There are a couple of them that are very good. And if we give them the free hands to run the affairs of the government, we should be able to have some level of traction.
Well, let's just hope the team does well. As a matter of fact, let's just hope, we just hope it does well. Thank you very much, Johnson Chukwu, for joining us on the program. Well, we'll take a short break now, and when we return, confusion over the Election Petition Tribunal ruling on the Akwa Ibom State governorship election. We'll find out from a legal expert what the exact state of things are. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.